Okay. Okay, can. Okay, so anyways, I'll be going through one of the past year papers today, right? And it'll be the one that I'll be going through will be the one that I send you in the yeah, general. Sorry, give me a moment.
Question 3B.
Right. So, anyways, I'll be going through question 3B onwards. Right.
Why?
I'll be going through question 3B onwards. Then after that, if we got time, then after that I will see whether I can go through the drawing questions. Okay. So for now, you all can go into the general. Y'all can flip to 2019 3B first. Okay, then after that I will slowly go through. Okay, so for this, right, the front part is so the whole 3B onwards all the way to 4C. Okay, we will try our best to the advice is to try our best to make sure that you get every single mark for this. Okay, because out of the whole paper, the drawing portion only accounts for 54%. Then after that, okay, let me just write on the tablet. Okay, so the drawing is 54%. Okay, then after that, the GD and T part, okay, accounts for 46%. Okay, so if you actually manage to like secure these 46%, right, which is, I guess, actually maybe not as difficult if you're not very good with your drawing, right? Then this like basically secures you like your pass already. Then after that, all you need to do is like maybe get like, I don't know, like 30 out of 50 or 54 of this. Then that is essentially, I guess, close to like quite a good score already lah. Okay, so I'll be covering this first. Then after that, subsequently, I will go into the others. Okay, let me see whether can any of y'all actually see like any links for this part? Because I forgot to schedule a proper one. Wait, let me see. Let me see if I can add Siva instead. Siva. See this. Participant. There it is. Let me mark. Okay, guess not. Okay, never mind, I'll just carry on first. Okay, so for question 3B, right, the first part is gonna be calculation questions. So at any point in time, if you're like a bit confused or whatever, please just stop me. Then after that, then we'll just then I'll try to explain better. Okay, so for the first part for 3B, okay, the question will tell you things like this. Okay, they'll give you a value first. Okay, then after that they'll tell you the tolerance. Then after that they'll tell you what's the tolerance that A has, or maybe B. Then after that, what interference, or maybe minimum interference and the distance. Okay, so it might not be interference in this case. Okay, so in this situation is interference. Okay, so they tell you Bobby have a tolerance of 0.109. So tolerance band. So this like you can just take it as a whole tolerance band. So right. So then you can just use your calculator. Right. So like for example 74.614 minus, cause this is upper limit, right? So obviously your lower limit will be lower than that. right? So in this case, this will be 74.505. Okay, then after that, you more often than not, okay, what you do from here is to go upwards diagonally first. Okay, and then I'll explain why later. Okay, so upwards, then after that, they tell you minimum interference 0.097, right? So 0.097 means you minus. Okay, so this is 74.408. Then after that, the last one, the tolerance is 0.067 minus 0.067. 74.341. Okay, then after that, the last part is that this will always be maximum material condition. So that means this is gonna be 74.341. Okay, so let me explain this, huh? Okay. Yeah, so let me explain this. Okay, so for these values, okay, first thing, I think most of you all should be able to understand why I go from upper to lower limit. Okay, so the thing now is theory wise, right? So you have they tell you minimum interference, correct? So minimum interference means that that means like your that means there's a maximum interference in a sense, which means right this point over here, okay, the biggest point, how you say the smallest shaft, right, should be linking to the biggest hole, okay, because if you do have a smallest hole, right, you do have a smaller hole, then after that the interference is gonna be higher lah, right? Or like say you have a bigger shaft and a smaller hole, then the interference is gonna be even more, right? So what's gonna be the minimum point, right? Will be from the smallest shaft to the biggest hole. First hole. Okay, does that make? I hope that makes sense. Okay, so because of that, that's why you go upwards instead. Like that's why you have to minus and go diagonally. Okay, so you'll notice if you do more practices, right, that most often like it goes in like this, like in this direction, right? So it goes whatever limit they give you. So then you go up or down, right? Then after that diagonally, then after that go down again, something like this. Let me see if I can. So I hope this part is quite understandable. Okay, so this is one part. Okay, so the next part is going to be a similar question, right? But this time they tell you what's the hole first lah. Right, so this time they tell you, okay, the hole has a tolerance of 0.128. Then after that, the original size is 56.635 plus 0.128. Okay, so this is going to be 56.73763. 763. Okay, so yes. Shit, does anyone know where I can access the link to this meeting to make life easier? Yeah, I'm trying to find. Meeting options. Okay, Do you know where I can get the meeting, the permission, the link? I don't. Shit. Where can I get this? That time I know I can. I don't know why now cannot. Hmm. This weird. Uh. shit. Okay. Yeah. Actually, got it. Okay, I got it. Okay. Okay, should be connecting now. Okay, so anyways, I'll carry on from here. Okay, so then after that they'll tell you, okay, there's a maximum clearance, right? So maximum clearance you have to kind of like imagine a bit lah, right? So what will give you maximum clearance? It should be the smallest shaft and biggest hole again. Okay, so this will give you like the maximum space possible, right? Like if you have a big shaft and a big hole, it won't give you the maximum like gap. Okay, so that means you'll go this way. Okay, then they tell you is 1.032. Right, so that means 56.763 minus 1.032. Right, then after you get 55.731. Okay, so in the event where it was interference instead, right? Okay, then A will be more than B. Okay, but since this is clearance, okay, B should be more than A. Yeah, I hope that's clear. Okay, then after following this, okay, you just need to add the tolerance again. So shaft A has a tolerance of 0.1, so you plus 0.19. Right, so this one you get 55.850. Okay, 55.850. Okay, then after that, same thing, same logic. Okay, your basic dimension is gonna be your maximum material condition. Okay, so in the event of maximum material condition for shaft A, okay, it's gonna be your upper limit. That's the biggest lah, right? So this is your 55.850. Okay, so this is your basic dimension. Okay, for this question. Okay, I hope not. So I hope you're not too lost. Okay, stop me anytime you'll get confused lah. Okay. Okay, so next one. Okay, the next question, the next part of the question is basically just kind of just like how to say cross checking lah. Okay, yeah. Okay, so what you do for this, right, is you kind of have to look at the chart at the bottom, right, at the end of your paper. Then after that you have to just kind of do like calculations lah. Okay. Okay, so the first thing they tell you, okay, is that okay, it is 83.45, right? So put it 83.45 first. Okay, this is housing. Okay, so that means, and this is housing first. They gave you housing first, right? And then they tell you it's force feed, detained bushing B, and housing C. Okay, so usually when they give you say a hole first, right, and they give you the dimension already, you can kind of take it as this is gonna be a whole basis. Okay, then like say for the next question, right, this is they give you A first, which is shaft. Okay, so this is gonna be a shaft basis question. Okay, so they kind of test both directions lah. Okay, so then with this, okay, you got your condition already, which is force feet. Then after you also got the length, which is the diameter of 83. Okay, means you can do your referencing already lah. Okay, so wait, okay, I'm not gonna, it's a bit hard to scroll down, but never mind. Okay, I'll just go down. Okay, so force feet. So usually this, so now you want to do shaft base, whole basis first, right? That's the first question. So whole basis, so you go to force feet. Okay, force feet. Right, then after that you're gonna is 83.45, right? So 83.45 is gonna, this is okay. When you look at your chart, right, this is up to and including. Okay, so this one like is up to and including, right? Since we have the value of 83.45, okay, we have to use the 100 one. Okay, because 80 will not be used because it's up to 80 only. Okay, so this is going to be up to 100. Okay, so then after that, so basically what we will need is this part. Okay, so it's hole on the left and shaft on the right lah. Okay, so these are all the like measurements you need. Okay, so basically they'll tell you, oh, okay, maximum is plus 0.35. This is what, plus 0.35, 0.35. Then after this is plus 0. Okay, so this is for your hole lah. Okay, so what you're gonna do, you're gonna transfer this all the way to the top. Okay, then from there, okay, so 83.45, right? So the first, they tell you the upper limit is plus 0.035. Right, so you plus 0.035, this is 83.485. So you get 83.485. Then they tell you the lower limit is plus 0. So you're gonna just write 83.45 as well, 83.450. Okay, so okay so far. Okay, then after that, you need to fill in this zone, right? You need to fill in this zone. Right, so now we're just gonna look at the limits again. Okay, so looking at the limits, right? One way you can identify, okay, is that say like we like to do the like crisscross, right? So like that, right? Right. So kind of you can basically do the same thing lah, okay? So yeah, right. So with that, so this is like plus 89. Is it plus 89? Yeah. So you can kind of tell that the shaft is going to be a bigger one. Okay, so like say from the biggest one, then after that you plus, so this 89. Then after that, you can actually see the values here lah. Okay, so the first diagonal is this one, then the second diagonal is this one. Okay, why is it negative? Is usually because it's supposed to be, because it's 0.035 minus 0.124. Okay, but it's cause of interference. Okay, so from this, okay, since we got all these values, okay, we can use the 0.089 and 0.146. Okay, so you can add 0.089 first. Okay, so this will give you a value of 83.574. So this will give 83.574. Okay, then the last one is to add. So another way they tell you, okay, the gap between lower to upper of the gap between lower to upper is 0.146, right? Which means from our value, we can also add it in, right? So 83.45 plus 0.146, you should get 83.596. Okay, then the last part is the type of feed, right? So the type of feed, they tell you use the ISO code, which means for the force feed, the ISO code should be this one. Wait, ISO code, right? Wait, ISO code. ISO code is which one? ISO code. Oh wait, sorry, it's this one. Okay, so H7/U6. Okay, I'll double check this again, but it's most likely correct. Okay, so Delphi H7/U6. Okay, so far all clear, right? Okay, yeah, let me just double check on something. Yeah, correct. Yeah, okay. So this is gonna be how it is. Okay, so similarly to the first part, right? Now so now we're gonna carry on with the second one lah. Alright, so for the second one is pretty much the same, just that this time we are looking at the shaft basis now. Okay, so they tell you, okay, that shaft basis, then they tell you, okay, so this shaft, then they tell you it's close running feet, right? Okay, so I'm gonna just use like the one, like my own chart lah, okay, so that you all don't keep seeing me scroll. Okay, so this, I'm just gonna reference my chart. Okay, so this shaft basis 51.75 close running. Close running 51.75. Okay, so I'll write the values at the side lah. Okay, so this is close running. Close running F8H7. F8H7. Then since at 51 means we cannot use 50, must use 60. Okay, so the values that they give, right, is 60.076, 60.030, 60.000, and then last one is 59.875. Sorry, 59.975. 975. Okay, so with that we can basically start already lah. Okay, so like they tell you that this is a shaft basis, right? So similarly to the first one, right? Okay, this side is the whole side. Okay, then this side is the shaft side. So we're gonna start with the shaft first lah. Okay, so from the shaft, okay, this is basically plus 0, right? Okay, so plus 0, so that means this is gonna be 51.750. Then next one is minus 0.025. Okay, so similarly you're gonna do 51.75 minus 0.025. Okay, so 51.725. Okay, then next one you're gonna add like upwards, right? Okay, so you're gonna add like this way, right? But anyways, you can also just use the, cause this is a very nice value, right? So you can just use the same value. So this one is like from 60 is plus 0.076. Then here is plus 0.03. Right? So that means similarly from 51 points, from your basic size, you can plus. Right? So this you get 51.780, and then after that 76. So this is gonna be 51.826. Okay, then after that type of feed, F8H7. Okay, so that's how you're gonna reference your chart for your hole and your shaft basis chart for question 3B. Okay, any questions so far? Yeah, I hope I never lost anybody. for the front part, right? If I'll be uploading the recording later also. So in the event where like I never actually see you join. Okay, but if you the front part you can just reference the video later. Okay, so I'll just carry on. Okay, so I take it that for question 3B is quite simple, right? So you all should be able to understand it. You all should be able to do it lah. Okay, the only thing that will be a problem is basic dimension just the MMC. In a sense, yes. Okay, so for the paper, right, like how say okay, so for this paper, like what the prof usually reference with is the MMC. Okay, because like say it's very hard to actually like usually the basic dimension is a very nice number. Okay, but in this case, right, it's gonna be the standardized way of doing it is always just taking the MMC. Okay, so you all must remember for MMC, like MMC of whole okay, is the smallest whole. Sorry. Yeah, sorry, correct. MMC of whole is the smallest whole. Okay, then after MMC of shaft is the biggest shaft. Okay. Okay, I hope it's a bit confusing, okay, but it will make sense like as you do more and more. Okay, so yeah. Okay, but usually basic dimension later if you like look at like how it usually is, right? It's like it's a very nice number. Okay, but yeah, but usually it's the MMC. Okay. Yeah, so there won't for this question, right, there won't usually be a case of uh the only way like you will have the shaft being the MMC, right? You won't really take the LMC to answer the basic dimension. Okay. Okay, so I'll just move on to 4A. Okay, so for 4A, okay, the is similar to your your first question, right? Then so usually, okay, so your basic size is gonna be in this case, right? Okay, it's usually taking this one. Okay, because it's the nicer one. Okay, so usually your basic size is gonna be 52.450. Okay. So like the it's pretty very consistent. So usually you can like very rare for you to like go wrong unless they really give some very weird number. Okay, so the lower deviation of A. So now that you know that, okay, say now you set your basic dimension to 52.450. Okay, so your lower deviation of A, okay, so your shaft is kind of always like bigger lah, right? So this you can roughly sort of tell that this is gonna be slightly like a transitional feed like that, like just by looking at the rough dimensions. Okay, so lower deviation of part A. Okay, so this is gonna be 0.002. Okay, then upper deviation of part B is plus 0.032. Okay, then after that, okay, for allowance, yeah, for your allowance it's gonna be allowance allowance equals to MMC minus MMC. So it's gonna be MMC of whole minus MMC of shaft. Okay, so in this case, MMC of whole is gonna be 52.4. It's the smaller whole. So 52.450 minus MMC of shaft, right, which is 52.485. Okay, so your whole allowance, right, is gonna be, you can tell it's gonna be negative lah. Okay, so allowance can be negative. Okay, so negative 0. Wait, allowance, you just put. So the allowance, I'll double confirm this again. Okay, but the allowance gonna be negative 0.035. Okay, so 0.035. Okay, then the last part, type of feed. So type of feed, right, is gonna be transitional in this case. Okay, so anybody wanna try to guess why is it transitional? Okay, so okay, never mind. Okay, so anyways, transitional. Okay, so one way you can test okay, so we did MMC versus MMC, right? And when we get negative, right? So what about what happens when we do LMC versus LMC instead? Okay, so now if we check LMC versus LMC of whole minus minus LMC of shaft, okay, we will get LMC of whole, okay, 52.482, and LMC of shaft is going to be 52.452. Okay, so this is going to be positive 0.03. Okay, so since you can see, okay, so there's a positive, okay, and there's a negative. Okay, so with that, right, you can conclude, right, transitional, that it's going to be transitional. Okay, because yeah, this is like the possibilities of it happening, right? Then yeah, so this is gonna be, so this is the reason why it's transitional. Okay, in the event, okay, where you have a negative allowance, or yeah, a negative allowance, okay, then after that, for some reason, say you have a negative here as well. Okay, this example, you have a negative, okay, then that will be a like interference. Okay, so you can just write here basically, okay, positive gives you clearance. Okay, negative gives you interference. Then last but not least, positive and negative gives you transition. Okay. Oh yeah, so 0 is technically positive. 0 is positive. Positive. Okay. So if you do this, somehow get a gap of 0 is still positive. Okay. I hope I never lose anybody so far. Okay, so that's about it for 4A. Okay, it's quite simple. 5 marks only. Then yeah, just don't get careless lah. Yeah, cause for GD&T, I guess the most common mistake is gonna be a careless mistake. Okay, so next question. Okay, next question I guess 4B. Okay, it's gonna be the I guess slightly more confusing one. Okay, so it kind of needs like a little bit of imagination. Okay, then yeah. Okay, so for this question, you are given all these lengths. Okay, then after that they tell you, okay, both holes and pins are their least material condition. Okay, so the least material condition for a pin is for the hole is gonna be the biggest hole, right? So which means for hole, the dimension is going to be 53.006. Okay, then for your pin slash shaft, okay, the dimension is going to be least, right? So it's going to be 52.994. Okay. Okay, so the first one, okay, we slowly go one by one. Okay, so they ask you to identify lah. Okay, what's the maximum permissible value of A? Okay, A is the distance from this wall of the hole to the next wall of the hole. Okay, so given when C is 176. Okay, so C is like fixed. Okay, so C is 176. Okay, so what will be your maximum distance that A can achieve? So that means your hole can spread. Like you don't, so the axis of your hole can be shifted. Okay, so this axis doesn't, this axis don't need to be 176. Don't need to equal 176. Okay, so it can be bigger than that. Okay, so what's going to be your maximum possible distance, right? Okay, so this is where I guess it gets slightly more confusing. Okay, so from here, what you're gonna do? Okay, you're gonna fix what C part C first, like what they asked. Okay, then after that you're gonna shift A out. Okay, so 176. So this is gonna be 176. Okay, plus your plus. Okay, wait. I write down the whole thing first. Then after that I'll explain. Okay, so it's 176 plus 53 plus 3 times 0.006. Okay, 176 plus 53 plus 3 times 0.006. Okay, so this is gonna be 176 plus 50, 176 plus 53 plus 3 times. Okay, so the answer for this is going to be 229.018. Okay, so the reason why I get this value, okay, so the first thing, okay, so 176 is the basic, right? Then after that, 53. Okay, 53, y'all can imagine that I added half a pin and half a pin here. Okay, so that's all the basic dimensions in first. Okay, then after that, so that's where 176 and 53 come from. Okay, then the next part, they tell you, okay, since all the pins are smaller than than 53, right? So technically this little wall over here, let me use a different color. This little wall over here can just be shifted a little bit outwards more. And similarly for this wall, okay, it can be shifted outwards just a little bit more. So you spread, okay, but spread by how much? Okay, spread by 0.006 because your pin, right, both got smaller just by basically 0.003 on each side lah. Okay, so like it got smaller, so you can shift this zone to be a bit bigger, than 176. Okay, does that? I hope that makes sense. Okay. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so with that, you get. Then after that, you add 0.006 on each hole. Okay, because each hole actually expanded. Each hole shifted is at its biggest, right, which is 53.006. Okay, then after it got bigger. Okay, so then because of that, so basically it just shift as together lah, right? So since it shift together, you add it both together. Okay, so then with that, that's where you get the 3 times 0.006 from. Okay, one is from the pin in total, then the other two is from the holes in itself. Okay. I know it's a bit confusing. Okay, so if you all need me to explain it again, I will try my best to explain it better in more simpler terms. Okay, good. Okay, so now similarly now they ask you, okay, what's the minimum permissible value now? Okay, now this time is minimum of A when C is 176 again, right? So this time, okay, we're gonna start at 176 again. Okay, then after that, so now this time you can imagine that this A, the walls went in a little bit in a way where this wall, like let me blue, okay, blue touches blue, okay, and blue touches blue. Okay, so you are like forcing the holes to be together now. Okay, so with that, then what will be the smallest amount you can like actually have, right? Okay, so 176. Okay, one way you want to, I guess, make it slightly easier, right, is just 176 plus the pin. Okay, so because you're only adding to this point, right? Right, so you can like add plus 53, okay, then after that minus 0.006. Okay, then with that, that's actually the answer right there. So 176 plus 53 minus 0.006. Okay, so this is gonna be 228.994. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? I hope it does. Okay, so now what I actually want you all to try to do, right, is that I want you all to try to see whether you all can get this answer or not. Okay, then maybe I give you all like 3 to 4 minutes. Maybe 2 to 3 minutes. Then y'all see whether y'all can get the answer or not. Then after that we see whether it aligns or not. Okay. Then I want to see whether I want to try to let y'all practice the thought process of it. And then after that y'all like get an answer, then just like type it in chat. How come it's 3 times instead of 2 for the first box? Okay. Okay, so for the first one, okay. So for the first one is like that. I'll use the more empty diagram. Okay, so when will you achieve the maximum of A, right? Is when, can you agree that is when this wall touches this wall and this wall touch this wall. Okay, so like the pink wall will touch each other. Okay. Okay, so if this is okay, if we look at the pin first. Okay, so for the pin, the pin became smaller by 0.006. Okay, so overall there's a 0.006 here, correct? 0.006. Okay. So from the pin contributed 0.006 overall. Okay, then on the whole side, right? On the whole side, because now I'm not limited to where, so basically from this, for the whole, right, from this to this, it increased by 0.006, correct? Because each whole increased by 0.006 each. Okay, which means, right, if I were to look at it, this also went a bit further by 0.006. Correct? Okay, so with that, right, with this, like all these 0.006, right? Okay, so you just need to add it together lah. See, so there's like 1, then there's 2, then 3. Yeah, so that's the reason why you have 3 times 0.006 instead of 2. Okay, so you kind of have, when they tell you like what's the limiting factor, I thought the pin distance fixed. How come the pin also has 0.006? Because the pin itself gets smaller, remember? So like, okay, so if the pin now 176, right? So this distance, without the limit, okay, this distance, right? Will you agree that it's 176 minus 53? So this original distance from wall to wall, without the 0.006 first, is 123. Okay, so that's the, yeah. So now that is the pin is also at LMC, means the pin got smaller, right? So remember I said that the pin is 52.994, right? So since the pin got smaller, your holes can shift even further, right? Because now I have an extra space that I can go towards, an extra little space. This is going to be 0.003 on this side. This is going to be 0.003 on this side. Right, like, okay, say now you try to imagine that you're holding your two hands in front of you flat, right? And then maybe now, oh, okay, yeah, okay, wait, let me just try to draw a very bad drawing. Okay, so let's say now you have your hand, right? And then after that, another hand. Right. So when you have this hand, so maybe I tell you that your hands never shift. Okay. So this distance is fixed. Okay. But then this distance is not, right? I mean the one in pink is not. Okay, the distance for the pink one is not. Okay, so now I tell you that you're gonna close in your thumb now. Okay, so now your thumb is gone. Okay, I'm gonna cut away your thumb. Okay, then with that, now my new distance is gonna be from index finger to index finger, because now my hand got smaller, right? Which also means that this, like, so now you imagine this is your pin, right? So this is now your new pin. This is now your new pin wall that your hole need to touch. That the hole needs to touch. Does that make sense? I don't know whether the analogy will be better or not. How come the hole need to touch? Because you want to find the maximum. Like so basically now you're just gonna shift your hole like to the max that you can go while still maintaining that the pins will go into the hole. Because now for the first box is max. Now for the second box is minimum, right? So in a sense, the minimum is going to be how much can you squeeze your hole inwards that such that the pins will still be able to go in. Okay. Okay. So I hope that's clear. Okay. So now they ask you to find the value of C. Okay. So now instead of fixing A, they fix C. Instead of fixing C, they fix A this time. Okay. So let me just erase this first. Okay. So now they ask you what's the maximum permissible value of C when A is 229.006. Okay, so how are you gonna do this? Okay, so for this, okay, I don't know whether Aaron and Ewing got try. Okay, so this is gonna be so maximum, right, is always when like this wall, the outer wall touch the outer pin, right? So it's always going to be something like this because you want it to be as spread as possible. Okay, so what you're going to do, okay, 229.006. Okay, so what you're going to do, you're going to minus lah. Okay, so this time you're going to minus instead. Okay, so what you're going to do, you're going to minus just just one pin. Okay, so this time you're just going to minus one pin instead. Okay, so 52.994. Okay, so 229.006 minus 52.994. Okay, so this will give you 176.012. Okay, then similarly, okay, for minimum permissible value of C means you want this wall to touch this wall. Okay, but this time while making sure that A is fixed. Okay, so what you're going to do for this one? Okay, I'll write out the thing first. Okay, it's going to be 229.006 minus the two holes. So 2 times 53.006. Okay, then after that plus one shaft in. Right, so you're going to plus 52.994. And this will give you minus 2 times 53.006. Okay, this will give you 175.988. Okay, so I give you all a while to look at it, then think, then see whether you understand how did I end up with this answer. Okay, I hope the first two parts is clear enough already lah. Okay, so I hope it's clear. Okay, and yeah, so for this question, right, there needs to be some there needs to have some level of imagination now. Okay, like it's a bit hard to do it without. Okay, so like usually what happens, right? What happens is basically they'll tell you that okay, I'm gonna fix points, maybe point C, then then A becomes a variable. Okay, either that, or now I'm gonna tell you to fix point A, then after that C becomes the variable. Okay, so like then after that you just need to work out accordingly. In the event where one is fixed, how much can you push the other one to be? Like how far can you push so that it still stays within your limits? Okay. This question nothing to do with interference or that, right? Yeah, don't have. Okay, so this question actually you won't really kena interference for this also because it's actually a clearance fit, right? It's the only way that you can have the only way that you can actually let your pins move around your hole is that you have clearance fit. Right? If it's perfectly interference, then this question will be invalid already because you can't do anything. Right? Because you'll just be stuck there. Okay, so Martin, I hope that answers your question. Alright, so yeah, maybe if you all want, okay, later I can go through it one more. If you all need to, I'll go through it one more time. Okay, then maybe I'll revise it one last time, like next week. Okay, when we have our last session. Okay, so that's actually about it for this 4B. Okay, it's 4 marks only. So yeah, so expect like just 1 mark each. But okay, yeah. Okay, so you have just 1 mark per box. Okay, so 4C. Okay, so 4C is gonna be I guess the most confusing one. Okay, so do bear with me. Okay, so for this question, they gave you some dimensions. Okay, that like is here lah. Okay, so your first portion is all your dimensions. Then after that, you are expected to fill in all the blanks at the bottom. Right, so there's about I think there's 10 blanks, right? So there's 10 blanks. So most likely um this is gonna be 2 marks, 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 then this will overall be 8 marks. Okay. Okay, so I'll go through this question step by step first. Okay, so first part they tell you some things that they take note. Okay, so they tell you all these figures. Okay, so all these, you see the numbers are actually quite nice, right? Yeah. Okay, so first part usually they tell you, okay, I want to calculate what are these values because these are the easiest values to get. Okay, so usually this one right, because it's more of position, right? So like tolerance, okay, usually you just take the center of it. Okay, so for all these values, right, usually you just take the average 496 plus 88.44 divided by 2. Okay, so usually you have a very nice number, 88.45. Oh yeah, then usually we read the question, right? They'll tell you like, like how many tolerance or like what decimal place must you like end up with. Okay, so like for example, position tolerance must be rounded up to 2 decimal place, that kind of thing. Okay, then after that they will tell you like feature control frame. So usually feature control frame meaning that they will tell you it is M and this, like there's a M, then there's a L. And usually like this for feature control frame you don't need to fill it in, they'll fill it in for you. Okay, but if the question asks for say like maximum material condition, or so this will give you a M. Okay, least material condition will give you a L. Okay, then the last one is a bit rarer. Okay, is where it's what's it called? Reference something. Yeah, basically is reference something. Right, so that one, right, well, you don't need to put in anything. Okay, that one is just empty, you just leave it blank. Okay, so the first thing usually you do, you just like get all these values first. Alright, so 0.686 plus 0.614 divided by 2. Okay, so this is going to be 42.65. Okay, 0.36 plus 0.314. Okay, so this is 36.35. The last one 0.796 plus 0.704 divided by 2. Okay, divided by 2. 0.75. So this is 95.75. Okay, so next, right? So this is where I guess it gets a bit more, slightly more confusing. Okay, so if you're actually, I don't know whether the prof got go through it during lecture. Okay, but all these, right, have technically if you say you do 88.496 minus 88.404. Okay, so this will give you the tolerance band. Okay, all right, so this is upper limit and lower limit, right? This upper limit, this lower limit. Okay, so like you can kind of imagine right, that basically your hole, like this hole, the axis can be somewhere here, can be somewhere here, can be somewhere here, where this is like 88.496 and then this is 88.404. Right, so you can like you can shift somewhere here, like within this zone. Right, so that's your tolerance band. Okay, then similarly for the horizontal one, it's the same thing. So this is gonna be vertical lah. Vertical. So similarly for your tolerance band, right, you're gonna have a horizontal one. So in this case gonna be 95.796 minus 95.704, right, which should give you the exact same value lah. Right, upper limit, lower limit, and this is tolerance band, horizontal instead. Okay, so with that, technically now I can draw like a square lah, right? Right, where it like has this vertical part and after it has this horizontal part. Okay, so what this I guess what this positional tolerance, right, wants you to do, right, is to calculate what is this, what's the diagonal. Okay, what's the diagonal, right, can be, and then in one way to look at it, right, it can be actually look like as a circle. Okay, so how much, so this becomes like a diameter, you know. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Okay, so it's kind of like, so basically what you're trying to look for is like a bit like the diameter of the circle. Alright, so in this case, the diameter of circle, okay, if you all remember, or if you all like can roughly see what it looks like, okay, it's gonna look like a Pythagoras theorem. Alright, so what you actually want to look for is vertical square plus horizontal square. Okay, so like for example for this, okay, 88.496 minus, so what you're gonna have here 0.092 square plus 0.092 square. Okay, so square times 2 square answer. Okay, so this will give you 0.1301. Okay, then after that tell you, okay, I just want it to be in 2 decimal place, right? So 2 decimal place means that, okay, 0.13. Okay, so it's 2 dp lah. Right, and so this is the value that I want here, like they want here. So this is 0.13. Okay, I hope that's clear. Okay, so with that, you should be able to do the second one just the same. Okay, so the second one is similar lah, right? The second one you just take the tolerances of this one and this one to get the second one. And the first one is gonna be this one and this one to get this one. Okay. So with that, okay, I'm gonna just fill it in. Okay, so for this one it's gonna be 6886 minus 0.086 minus 14. Okay, square times 2 square root. Okay, so this is 0.1018. So 0.10 lah. Okay, 0.10. Okay, so that's actually all you need to. Don't need diameter sign in front of the 0.13. Yeah, no need. Okay, because this is not actually diameter when you actually if you realize, okay, this is more like this is your positional tolerance, which means like how much can you go like horizontally, diagonally. Yeah, so this is not diameter. This is the like what how much can you shift, like what's the diameter. Okay, what's the diameter of the area you can shift, but you don't need the, but it's given that it's the diameter, like it's a zone, it's not an actual circle. Okay, yeah, okay, so anyways, okay, so I move on. Okay, so now this is where I guess it gets a little bit interesting. Okay, so this one they tell you that, okay, uh it's a bit weird. Okay, so you need to bear with me a bit. Okay, so now they tell you the different conditions lah, right? So one is like hole and boss are at LMC, then pin is at MMC. So your hole and your boss are just basically this thing is your boss. Then of your hole is, well, this is your hole lah. Then this is your pin. Okay, so they kind of actually label it for you already lah. Then they also give you the dimensions, right? Okay, so so now I'm just gonna fill it in a bit. Okay, so they tell you hole and boss are at LMC, pin is at MMC. Okay, so dimensions wise, okay, I'll just write aside. Okay, hole, boss, pin. Okay, so hole is LMC. LMC means it's the bigger hole. Alright, which means it's 47.25 plus 0.33. Hey, wait a minute. Give me a moment. Let me double check something. Okay, wait, let me write down the values first. Give me a while. Yeah, okay. Okay, so for hole, okay, hole at LMC. Okay, so hole at LMC is the bigger hole, so 47.25 plus 0.33. So this is going to be 47.58. Okay, boss is 34.45, 35.45 minus 0.28 plus is LMC. So this is going to be 35.17. Okay, last one is your pin. Your pin is at MMC. Okay, so pin MMC is plus, so 46.75 plus 0.004. So this is 46.724. Okay, then let me just write down the others first. Okay, so hole, boss, pin. Okay, so this time hole and boss are MMC. So hole MMC is when it's the smallest hole. So 47.25 minus 0.2. 47.13. Okay, then after that, boss is maximum. So it's 35.45 plus 0.15. Okay, so this is 35.6. Last one, pin is 46.75 minus 0.003. Okay, so this is 46.747. Okay, so I guess this is gonna be the slightly confusing part. Okay, so okay, so what we're gonna have to do, right? Okay, so they tell you minimum D1. Okay, so the first thing they tell you is oh wait, so okay, maybe I do D2 first, okay, because it's on the same line. Okay, so we're gonna shift this over here. Okay, I'll just shift it over here. So it's easier to see. Okay, so minimum D2. Right, so minimum D2 they tell you is, so D2 is here, right? Okay, shit. So D2 is here. Okay, so if you all can see, D2 is gonna be from the top of the boss all the way to the top of the pin. Okay, so if y'all try to think about it, okay, how do you think y'all will get, what do you think y'all need to add or minus so that y'all can get minimum D2? Okay, maybe I give you a few seconds to think. Yeah, okay, so okay, so if y'all think about it, okay, so D2 in a sense, okay, is gonna be okay, the okay, D2 if you want to look at it, okay, it's gonna be, you want the gap between the two center lines. Okay, then after that you're gonna minus the whole. Okay, you're gonna plus, wait, let me just, you're gonna plus the boss. Okay, then minus the whole. Then after that plus the pin. See whether y'all can understand. Y'all can see that or not. Okay, so I'll just write it down. Okay, so gap, okay, minus half pause minus half hole plus 1 pin. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so if you can understand why, okay, mainly it's because, okay, for starters now, if you look at this diagram, okay, D2 is to the top of the pin. Okay, but the pin they got say that it's resting on the hole itself. Okay, so yeah, okay, so a pins rest freely on inside a hole. Okay, so when you say freely means by gravity, right? This pin will always be at the most bottom of this hole. Okay, so the pin will always be resting on this. Okay, will always be resting on this thing. Okay, so with that, okay, to achieve the desired gap lah, okay, you're gonna have to find out what's the gap between let me just draw a different color. Okay, the blue one. Okay, you want to find out what's this gap. Okay, then after that you're gonna add a pin in. Okay, so this gap is gonna be the gap between the center lines. Then after that you're minus the boss and minus the hole. Okay, not minus the pin, minus the hole. Then add the pin. Okay, so that's how this comes about. Okay. Okay, right. Okay. So the next thing, okay, is gonna be a bit like it's gonna be slightly weird, okay. Okay, but essentially, right, what you all have, so which means the L and the M, right, actually like they actually matter a bit, okay. So what's gonna happen, right, is that you're gonna have to add like the tolerances. Like it's gonna be, I don't know if that makes sense, but you need to add the tolerance. Okay, so like for example, okay, so for this, okay, I'll just write it down first. Okay, this is gonna be 88.45 minus maybe 88.45. Wait, let me use a small phone. Okay, so this is gonna be 88.45 minus 42.65. Okay, then minus half boss, right? Minus half a boss. Okay, so you minus half a boss. Okay, the boss they tell you, you know is 35. So minus half 35.17 minus half of whole, so it's 47.58 plus 1 p 46.724. Okay, so the last part, which is I guess slightly weird, okay, is to add your positional tolerances. Okay, so what does that mean, right? Okay, so like first you see that you have a 0.13 and a 0.1, right? Okay, so and they have letters, right? So you're gonna have to like deduce whether you need to add like the whole thing or you need to add just like a little bit. Okay, so the tolerance, right? You're gonna have to add for this, in this case, right? This is L, this is M, so you need to add positional plus H. Yeah, give me a moment. Okay, sorry, my mistake. 0.37. Minus. Okay. Forty-one. Okay, so okay. Okay, then after that you want the center lines closer together, right? So you're gonna have to minus it again. So you get minus 0.1 plus this. Let me try to remember this. It is just 0.1 over 2 minus this is 0.13 plus minus 0.13 plus 135. Correct. Let me see if it's correct or not. M so plus home slash yeah okay 43 point positional whole L. Okay, yeah. So yeah, let me double check something. Yeah, okay, can. Okay, so the different it's gonna be a bit confusing here. Okay, so now what you want, like for example for minimum D2, right? Okay, so you want this D2 to be as small as you can, right? So what you're gonna do, you have to like shift the center lines closer together first. Okay, so to do that, right, you need to have some steps lah. Okay, so the reason why I point out that M and L actually matters is because um I think this one you need to like read the notes to get a better sensing, right? Okay, but essentially what happens, right, is that the formula for this, right, is gonna be okay, your standard, okay, the standard formula that I wrote out. Okay, this is your um basic, this is basic, right? So this is your basic minus half boss minus half hole plus one pin. Okay, then this part is where it's a bit slightly confusing. Okay, so this part, right, is gonna be this is gonna be uh you have to minus the tolerances that you want, right? So in this case you want it to be closer, right? Then the difference is gonna be the determining factor is gonna be the L and the M. Okay, so what I mean by that, okay, so for example they tell you hole and boss is at LMC, correct? So when we say that, right, okay, then we need to look at whether the L and the M in the boxes over here and here are matching to the condition that you are matching. Right. So if I tell you that hole and boss are at L, right? So you can see that okay, M is different, but L is the same. Okay, so when it's the same, right, you only add the positional, you only minus the positional tolerance. Okay, don't really know how to explain this very well. Okay, but yeah, but basically that's the thing. Okay, so in the sense, okay, I'll write down the rough rule that you need. Okay, so the rule, right, is that, okay, if L with L or M with M, right, okay, then you add or minus your positional tolerance. Positional tolerance divided by 2, okay. But if it's L, M, or M, L, okay, you have to plus minus the positioner and your whole tolerance band. And divided by 2. Okay, so what I mean by tolerance band, okay, I mean this part. Okay, so you need to add the whole thing together. So for example, say now in this situation, okay, so in the first situation of D2, right, they tell you that H and L, H and B are at LMC. Okay, so because of that, okay, so LMC matches with the boss dimensions, but not the whole one, right? So in this case, you're gonna have, so in the first one, for the boss, okay, for the boss, it's gonna be 0.1 divided by 2. Okay, then for the whole, it's gonna be 0.13 plus 0.33 plus 0.12 divided by 2. Okay, so that's the whole thing that you need to shift. I hope that's, I know even the lecture slides is a bit confusing, but like, yeah, that's how you like have to do it. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so that's the I guess a bit confusing. Maybe I'll explain it a bit better like next week. Okay. But essentially, right, that's what this is the general rule that you need to follow. Okay. So like so in a sense, now say we want to get maximum D2 instead, right? So instead of minusing, it's the same lah, right? So this time it's gonna be a plus. Right, so the steps at the beginning are the same. Okay, so you're just gonna have the 88.45 minus 42.65 minus half the boss, which is 35.17, then minus half of the whole, which is 47.58, and plus 1 pin, which is 46.724. Okay, then this time you plus instead. So this time you want it to be further apart. Right, so because you want it to be further apart, you plus instead. 3 plus 0.35. Okay, 3 to 1 2. 3 to 1 2 is, oh shit, it's 4 5. Okay, my bad. Okay, 4 5 4 5 over 2. Okay, yeah. Okay, so this is the formula for it. Okay, so the only thing that actually differs, right, is usually this zone where you need to identify what to do. Okay, so in the case, so like let's say now I go into D1 first, right? Okay, looking at like the conditions, okay, they tell you boss and whole are at MMC. Okay, so in this case, right, so means uh the whole condition matches, but then the boss condition doesn't, right? So what you're gonna do, right? Uh, the formula will be for this particular one, for D1. Okay, this is gonna be horizontal minus horizontal minus plus half boss plus half boss minus half pin plus half boss minus half pin. Okay, yeah, correct. Yeah. Okay. So this is the general formula for this particular part. Okay. If you all don't understand, like, oh wait, okay, maybe I don't write this part. Maybe I write gap. Okay, gap instead. Gap plus half boss minus half a pin. Okay, the reason why, okay, if you want to look at it, okay, so first is the gap, right? Okay, yeah, it's a different color. Okay, so this is the gap, right? Okay, so to achieve D1, okay, what you want to do is, they tell you it's the side of the pin, which means you need to, you want this to move this way, right? So you minus half pin, half a pin. Okay, then after you want it to move this way, right? So this is plus half a boss. That is minus this plus. Okay, I hope that is quite intuitive, I guess. Okay, then yeah. Okay, so this is how you get the gap. How you want to shift the things first lah. Okay, then after that they tell you okay, hold at MMC and boss at MMC as well. Right, so based on position tolerance, okay, you kind of need you want minimum, so minimum is minus, right? So minus, you want the center lines to be as close together as possible, right? So what you're gonna do, you're gonna have to, it's gonna be minus 0.1 plus 0.15 minus 0.15 plus 0.43. Okay, because this is the one that as L, for the boss is L, then after, but they give you M, right? So it's not matching, which means you need to add the whole tolerance. Okay, so 43 divided by 2. Then after that, this is gonna be minus 0.13 over 2. Okay, the reason why 0.13, okay, is because for the whole, okay, the whole is at M, then after that, your condition is also MMC, so it matches. So you only need to, based on this rule, right, you only need to plus the position, plus half the positional tolerance. Okay. Okay, so with that, okay, maybe let's see whether your okay, so with that, this one I can just write gap plus half a boss minus half a pin, okay, minus this time, this one is plus because you want maximum, so you plus the whole thing, then minus a plus 0.3 over 2. Okay, then you all should be able to get the answers for this. Okay, so yeah, okay, so for this part, right, okay, another way to check whether you are actually correct or wrong, right, okay, is to make sure that, right, if you were to check between these two, minimum and maximum, okay, the gap, the difference that you all should have should only be, like, for example, for the case of D2, right, the gap that you all should have should be 0.1 plus 0.13 plus 0.45. Okay, so this is the gap that you all should be having for this minimum to maximum D2. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so that's so with that, right? Actually, that's about the end of this question already, actually. Then if you are able to do all questions till here, right, at this point, right, okay, you should be able to um secure, if like no careless mistake or whatever, you should be able to secure like the last 46 marks. Okay, so like usually what I advise to do is to um get the GD&T portion down first. Okay, because it's actually half the paper. Okay, get your GD&T portion down. Ready, then after that you all can like focus on the drawing portion, because the drawing portion will take a little bit more time and all, then it'll be I guess harder lah. It'll be slightly harder to do as compared to just calculations. Okay, so if there's no questions, okay, that will actually be what I have for today already. Okay, then for next week, okay, for the last session, I will more or less quickly run through a little bit of like I guess some revision in a sense, okay, of like question 1A all the way to 3A as well. Okay, but yeah, my advice is that you should be able to at least secure your last 3B and 4 and question 4 as well. Then you should then like yeah, put in some practice on the GD&D portion and not just your drawing. Okay, because yeah, the GD&D portion is like half the paper as well. Yeah, so if you get that part, actually, then you can worry slightly lesser for your drawing portion. Yeah. Okay. So with that, I'll just end the recording here. Then after that, if y'all do still have questions, y'all can ask. Then or if not, y'all can like leave already.